Before I get into today's episode, there's something I need to mention. Our guest star is Nehemiah Persoff. We've seen him I don't know how many times, and it's always a treat to watch him in action. And as I write this, last month we lost him to the ravages of time. I frankly don't know what I could say about him that hasn't already been said. Whenever I go to look at his filmography and try to comment on it, the range of characters he played overwhelms me pretty quickly. I'm in awe of his talent and the countless ways he chose to share it with us. Rest in peace in God's loving arms, sir, and thank you for everything. Copyright violation alert. Land of the Lost was a 1974 Saturday morning children's show, and they stole this title. Irwin's gonna sue, if he even noticed.
We got enough powder here to start a war.
Yeah, but it'll come in handy for blasting. Guys coming?
We ought to be here soon. Let's get this stuff under cover.
There's a carnival going on that includes lots of fireworks. The crew are gathering dropped items to salvage the powder, as Valerie said. There are very few children on any planet who can resist the lure of fireworks. This boy is no exception. He just found himself some free entertainment, and he just happens to have some matches in his pocket.
He's got our firecrackers.
Be grateful he didn't get us.
I'm gonna go get him.
No, Barry, wait. He'll be back for his balloon any minute.
The ones he hasn't already set off, he put in the basket under that balloon he was carrying. Barry is determined to get them back.
Ow! Ow! Barry! Barry! I told you to stay where you were.
I hurt my ankle.
Wait, don't move.
His determination may have faded a bit. Get him out of there now. They can help with that. Except if that happens.
Valerie, watch it!
Hey, we've got to get out of here.
Don't try to jump!
Come on, Barry, jump. I can't, my ankle. Jump!
Mark and Steve climb into the gondola while Dan and Fitzhugh are stuck on the ground. Betty, of course, is nowhere to be seen. They have their radios, and Steve is hoping that, one, none of those skyrockets will hit their balloon and send them plummeting back to the ground, and two, that the wind will carry them in the general direction of the ship. Once they're closer, they can find a way to let the helium out of the balloon slowly and make a soft landing. Maybe. Regardless, Dan and Fitzhugh will follow the balloon as best they can just in case. I'm not sure what that was in aid of, but it's good to know there's a plug in that cork so they can get a nice slow release.
This wind! It doesn't make sense! We're traveling against it! We're going against it! It's impossible, but...
It's almost as if we're being pulled.
I have a feeling you are, and that guy watching you on his little screen probably has something to do with it. And because they're going the wrong way, they are now out of radio range. Dan has no way to know what's happening or where they are. He manages to reach Steve briefly on the ship's radio, but there's not much Steve can tell him. They're moving against the wind, and they have no idea where they are. And no, Betty isn't in the ship either. Steve climbs up and pulls the plug again. The balloon starts going down.
Steve, cut off the air! We're going over an ocean!
This isn't a good time to set down. This thing is designed to come in for a landing, not a watering. Dan manages to reestablish contact, and Steve gives in the news. They've determined that they've been traveling at about 500 miles an hour. The last map they saw of this land covered 1,000 miles from east to west, and there was no ocean on it. So they're clear off the map and still going. They just wish they knew where and why, not to mention how. While they continue to drift, he wants Dan to try and patch into the local airport system and try to figure out where they are and where they might be going. The news Dan gets from an air traffic controller isn't good.
It's a sea of storms, all right.
No one's ever come back.
Wait, they have cars, ships, planes, but they don't have something that can cross an ocean? You'd think a decent airliner could get above the storms, but I may be giving these giants too much credit.
Maybe we'll drift north or south. Isn't that land? Yeah, it is.
For shame, Steve. You know the correct expression is land ho!
Steve, look! Lights! Millions of lights!
Steve? I wonder what kind of people live down there.
I don't know. We've come a long way.
Maybe there are signs.
Let's hope so.
I wonder what kind of genetic mechanism would produce giant humans and tiny humans on the same planet. But there are people who have a lot of objections to the physics of this planet, especially regarding the giants themselves. My favorite is the one that says they'd be so heavy their bodies would collapse in a heap. But that depends on this planet's gravity now, doesn't it? It's safe to assume they developed in accordance with the forces that acted on them and their bodies, and they evolved to match the force of gravity in this world. A better question would be, considering that the gravity on this planet has to be a lot stronger to produce people that size, how are the little people able to move around against it? Shouldn't they be plastered to the floor because they each weigh 3 tons here? As far as I know, I'm the only person who's asked that question so far.
What happened? Well, we landed. That's strange. There are no more lights.
They're all mystified. What happened to all those lights? It won't occur to anybody that they're inside something. Inside something with a door. What has a door? Let's see. Door. I got it. We're in a... No, that can't be right. Hey, Barry, we've determined scientifically that they aren't our size. Do we finally get to find out what this is all about? I'm guessing that's the language they speak on this side of the world.
Who is he? Another rebel, sir. He was just captured.
Or not. Maybe he's just crazy.
What is this object?
We don't know. Do we?
Oh, come. Surely you must know. It came from your country across the seas.
It ain't their country, dude. They like it about as much as you do. And by the way, who are you?
My name is Titus, and I'm the absolute ruler of this land. You will therefore answer my questions.
They aren't your subjects, Titus. They're visitors, and not by choice. You brought them here against their will. You may be a big cheese with the locals, but they're not impressed.
This is obviously a weapon of some sort. How is it used? And this thing you carry with you is also a weapon, isn't it?
It's just a firecracker.
Mark explains how it works and that it's a harmless child's toy. Titus says, let's test that.
Take cover.
You did not tell me the truth. What is this for?
They told him the truth, but he's too far up his own goozicks to think about the fact that it's harmless to him, not necessarily to them.
Why should we answer your questions?
shall give you some reasons.
He puts a special collar on that prisoner and starts questioning him. When the man won't answer, Titus flips a switch and the man loses the use of his feet. Another switch and he's flat on his back.
Everyone responds in a different way to the collar. Others have to be rendered unconscious 4 or 5 times before they cooperate. This Andros, I'm afraid, will be a stubborn case. As for you, my little friend, I doubt that I'll be needing miniature collars for you. There are other persuasions I can use.
I have a confession to make. Back when I was growing up with these shows, I didn't realize how many of them have the theme of bullying. Be it a dictator like Titus or a sociopathic kid who likes to torture small things, it's all basic bullying. The Robinson family met who knows how many bullies in their travels through space. Even Dave Crabtree had his own personal bully in My Mother the Car. It's a thread that runs through most all of these 60s shows, and I'm amazed I never saw it before. Now, by 1968, I had pretty well checked out of the human race and spent all my time by myself, either reading comic books or getting high. Sometimes both. I can tell you what a trip that was. Basically, I dropped out of everything rather than continue to face my own bullies, some of whom had followed me since grade school. Maybe that's why I didn't see it. I was too close to the same kind of situation. For more on that, check out my storytime video called The Outcast. It explains a lot.
Like what? Oh, the same forces that brought these articles to me across the seas. The force that drew you here. They can be used in other ways, you know. For example.
Hey!
I want to go next. That looks like fun. He says, answer my questions or I can drop one of you from a great height.
What's this used for?
It's called a thimble. You put it on your finger to protect it from the needle when you're sewing.
Put it on.
What's he expect her to do, crawl in it?
I can't. It's too big.
So I see. And what is this?
Those are eyeglasses. You put them on to help you see better.
Put it on.
Well, obviously, they're too big for me.
Obviously, you're lying.
One other thing about your typical bully, they tend to be bullies because they're compensating for being stupid.
Can't you see these things were made for people your size and not ours?
More lies. Do you own such things?
Of course we do.
You admit it.
But not that size. They're too big for us. Well, anyone can see that.
Anyone with moderate intelligence, that is, which explains why Titus can't see it. Steve explains where they're from, and of course Titus won't believe it. He puts a cage over them, posts a guard, and leaves for the night. Back at the Spindrift, Fitzhugh managed to pilfer a balloon from the vendor in the park. He wants to blow it up and use it to follow the other balloon. He says he knows how to navigate a balloon.
All I need is a little supply of hot air.
I'm with Dan. That's way too good a setup line. Meanwhile, our guard is falling asleep. There's a giant finishing nail on the table right next to them. Titus assumed it was a weapon. Either his empire hasn't discovered hammers yet, or his dad recognized his sociopathic tendencies and never let him near sharp objects. What do you know? It was a weapon of escape. So was that. The other one will become another lever. The noise and sparks scare that guard long enough for them to get out of the cage and off the table. If you're used to today's fireworks, you might find it hard to believe one would burn for more than about 6 seconds, but back then you got your money's worth.
We hit a dead end.
It's time for that ever-popular question, now what?
Yeah, this must be his power source.
What is the power? Magnetism?
I don't think so. It attracts non-metallic as well as metallic things.
What is it then?
Well, there's a force of attraction between any two bodies.
You know, we don't even have that.
My watch has stopped.
Mine is too.
I'm pretty sure that force Mark started to describe is called gravity. The implication is that Titus has learned how to control it.
Hot air's coming through steadily.
Keep the pressure up.
Don't overinflate it.
Don't worry. I'm an expert on hot air.
Bet you that, I don't doubt.
Fitzhugh needs to create a comedy team with himself as the straight man. He delivers those setup lines as if he means them. The balloon starts to rise and Dan says, "That's plenty of air. Don't overinflate it and pop it, okay?"
It does need more air, in my opinion.
It's just as well you'd go off and leave Betty wondering where everybody went anyway, assuming she ever returns from wherever she is. Titus has his captives back on the table.
What are you going to do with us?
This does help me to see better.
Now you know we weren't lying.
I know no such thing. You might have constructed this lodge for some special purpose of your own.
And what purpose would that be, Titus? Why would they want to improve your eyesight?
Why don't you face the truth that people across the sea are as big as you are?
And they're a lot more advanced in certain respects.
I don't believe it.
Of course not. He's the pinnacle of humankind, the goal toward which evolution was striving. It's impossible that anyone else anywhere could be better than he is in any way. Steve says, "Let the woman and the boy go and they'll send back proof." Of course, Titus won't go for that. He needs to keep the most vulnerable ones as his hostages. He's afraid Steve and Mark might prove to be his equals. He tells Steve, "You go, get the proof, and come back."
You have until the sand runs down. If you're not back by then, I hereby decree your friends will be killed.
Now Steve knows what to do. Bring him back an alarm clock and let him spend the rest of his life trying to figure out what it is. He's back in the gondola being flown through the storm. He calls Dan on the radio and explains the situation. He says, "I need pictures, anything to prove the people on that continent are giants and technologically advanced. He'll also need explosives. Lots of explosives. We don't even need 2 seconds to guess what he intends to do with that." While that's going on, Titus is determined to find some kind of rebellion or sedition or otherwise evil plot that the little people are working on. We see the rebel from earlier, Andros by name, now wearing one of those collars and doing what he's told. Next thing we know, Titus has made one and put it on Mark.
When you called Steve, I've been thinking about him. He agreed too readily to my sending away in the balloon instead of the woman and the boy. He has a plan to trick me, hasn't he?
There's no plan.
What is the plan?
There is no plan.
You know why these bullies never believe you when you tell them something? Because they think everybody in the world is just as untrustworthy as they are. They're willing to lie, cheat, hurt people or whatever to get what they want, and they assume you're just like them. He'll flip some switches and start torturing Mark, but the answer is always the same.
No! He was telling the truth. There isn't any plan.
He assumes that even with the collar, he can't trust anybody to tell him the truth. He seriously thinks the only way to get the truth out of someone is to torture them. Again, he thinks all of humanity is just as corrupt as he is. He also badly underestimated how long it would take the balloon to get back. The sand is almost done and Steve only just got there. They load some rolled up photographs, the explosives, and some parachutes into the basket, and the three of them hop in and take off. Or not. That sound was what you think it was.
You all right?
It's a good thing we went up too high when it exploded.
At least they shouldn't be able to blame this one on Fitzhugh. Back to the carnival for another balloon, and let's try this again.
A most interesting race with time. If they reach here before the sand has run out, you will be spared. If not...
Titus, listen. Steve's on his way now. What difference could a few grains of sand make?
I have taken an oath. My whole kingdom is built on obedience. There can be no exceptions.
I assume that applies to him too, but since he makes the laws, there's no chance of him breaking one. Now here's a little bit of weirdness for you. He says they're racing against time and isn't sure Steve is going to make it. But Steve doesn't have control of anything. Titus is the one making the balloon move, so it seems to me he could make it go fast enough to make the deadline if he wanted to. But he doesn't want to. He wants to kill them. Picking on small things makes him feel like a man. The balloon is starting to descend. Time for Dan and Fitzhugh to use those parachutes.
Fitzhugh up.
Good. Now Fitzhugh down.
Oh.
That scene is listed in IMDb's Goofs. Watch it again and zero in on the bottom of the screen when Fitzhugh jumps.
Oh.
I don't think anybody expected him to bounce that high.
Oh, too bad the time's run out. Balloon's here. Your lives are spared.
Are you sure? By my stopwatch, he was a good 4 seconds late. Didn't you say no exceptions? But it's hard to count seconds with an hourglass. 1, 2, 3, I messed up. 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3. Steve has several photographs to show Titus. They clearly depict him and his friends as little people in a world of giants. Speaking of little people in a world of giants, let's check in on Dan and Fitzhugh.
Start down that end.
Do I need to mention that that's the room where they found Titus's power supply and all that?
Well, that ought to prove that the people where we come from are your size. They're not ours. Now, this should be interesting to you. Just notice the weapons they've got to destroy you.
Who took the pictures? The SID. Dan and Fitzhugh pilfered them from their safe.
What is the meaning of these pictures?
I'm pretty sure he just told you. Those people are your size. The good news is, even though their technology is superior to yours, they still haven't figured out how to circumnavigate their own planet, so they don't know you exist.
Those are long-distance missiles. With those weapons, the people back there can fire across the sea and wipe you out in a single attack.
How can you be sure that these things called missiles will do what you say they do?
I helped build similar ones back on Earth.
Shouldn't have told him that, Mark.
And you will build them for me.
Told you.
Well, that'd take years.
You will be here for years. You will be here forever.
Fine, he'll build them for you, but he can build them a lot faster if he can build them to his size, not yours. Considering what's about to happen, it's probably just as well he got them away from that vent.
Now I know you cannot be trusted. Mark I will keep to help me. The rest of you I will kill now.
Let them alone.
How dare you?
Seize him!
Well, I see you both need a good jolt to bring you to your senses.
I think they've decided you need a few jolts to the jaw, Titus. Funny thing, without his control collars and his fancy gadgets, he's just another guy. Nothing special about him at all.
Andros! This whole place is gonna explode!
Come here.
Get my basket!
Titus is so freaked out at the defiance he doesn't even realize Andros threw him right to the control switch that he could use to stop them. But he's done with his toys. It's personal now. As I said, just another guy, not even an especially good fighter. I find myself wanting his backstory. I'd like to know how he seized power in the first place. Steve told Andros the place was going to explode, so I'm not sure why he came back to do that. But he won't do it again.
I suppose Titus is dead.
He couldn't have lived through the explosion.
Neither could Andros, I'm afraid.
Poor Andros. We owe him a debt of gratitude.
Well, you did just kill his dictator and basically destroy the entire political structure of his land and set a lot of people free. I guess that's something.
By this time tomorrow, we should be back at camp.
Tomorrow? That's a long time to spend stuck in this balloon.
You're complaining.
Yes, he needs to pee and he can't do it when there's a girl present, if you must know. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please click the thumbs up. It really does help the channel. If you're not subscribed yet, the button looks something like this. So click it and join our little family. There's a bell there that may or may not actually work to give you notifications when we post something, but it can't hurt to click it just in case. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. His determination may... Okay, come on. Dan and Fitzy will follow the balloon as best they can, just in case. That was terrible. You know the correct expression is land ho! Now do it without the voice crack. Back at the Spindrift, Finch... Yeah. He'll also need explosive. Explosives.